Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authenticity. I am Anna Toothman, and my beloved guest is Elaine Marie Rose. Welcome, sister.
Thank you for having me.
It is my joy. It really is my true joy to have you on this day, on July 15th, with all that's going on planetary wise and where we are heading to. It is perfect time to have you on my show. Authenticity. I do have your bio up. Elaine, you're a water priestess, wisdom keeper, founder of the Rose Heart Temple Mystery. You're an author of Awakening Sacred Union Between the Divine Feminine and the Masculine. Becoming the Beloved Rose. You have Lemurian Water Wisdom Keeper on here. I'm so excited to get in this. Your topic today, when we discussed, is that you wanted to talk about the importance of water, becoming love, and what all about water and how water is involved with this ascension and our union with self and source and so much more. Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you.
Where should we start? Where do you want to start today? How is July presenting itself to you right now?
Wow, it's presenting itself as a massive gateway in my own personal ascension and also witnessing the collective. The energy of transformation and change, is so palpable for all of us that are tuning into the processes of upgrades that are happening for humanity, for Gaia, for all aspects of our existence here on this planet. And the interesting thing, is I was told a couple of years ago, and it just keeps accelerating, that we were in this space that they called a gap out of time, where we were kind of floating in this gap space of time space reality as we shifted from one reality to another. And in the middle of that, the space we've been in, we've all been bathing in energetically for the past couple of years. And of course, further, it was always being prepared further back. It has really been the time when all of us that are aware of what's coming forth and what we're moving towards have really had to be cleansed at the deepest levels and prepared and upgraded in our bodies at all levels, both physical and all the outer energy bodies as well, so that we could hold the frequency and anchor it, as you and I were mentioning early, the anchoring piece of being able to anchor the new realities for the planet. And how beautiful it is that the light workers are really scattered in a grid all over the planet. You and I are both connected to people all over the world that are doing this work. And we create a light grid in that way, in addition to all the grids that we're connecting into with the earth in the many different levels that exist and are being upgraded and stabilized so that we can step into this new timeline together.
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
I know. Piece of cake, right? We got this. And poof, here we are. Yeah. Well, it really feels like we're birthing out. I was, saying the other day, it's this feeling of being pregnant and giving birth, and it really feels that way in my body. And it just like there's this birthing process that's happening, but it's not just an individual birth. It's a collective birth of something so much greater than any of us individually can hold. So it really feels like, okay, let the baby out. Let the baby out.
And I find it, we were speaking, Elaine, fascinating that it's happening while we're alive in the physical body.
Yes.
The next level of evolution for humans and Gaia and all living, breathing consciousness is evolving.
And that really is a beautiful segue to our discussion about water, because
all
if you look at the human body,
planets, the universe itself is evolving. Elaine,
oh, we had a little time lapse
yeah, I
there.
can see you. I stepped back a little bit. Yeah, of
Little time
course.
lag. So I was just saying that's a beautiful segue into the water piece, because in one way of looking at it, and the way that it's been brought to my attention, our ascension is happening through the water in our bodies.
Mhm.
And if you look at the human body, the biological body, it's at a molecular level over 99% water. And, depending on our age, around 70% is what you usually hear. And so when we look at the ascension of water, from a less coherent, which means a structured, organized fashion, into a higher diamond liquid crystal, that's really, if you look at the nuts and bolts of our physical bodies ascending, it's the water that needs to ascend in our bodies out of a carbon format, a cellular format, into a crystalline one. And it's the water that's really transmitting that crystalline frequency within us, that's holding that and becoming the antenna for everything within us and without us. So the water is playing such a massive role, because we live on a planet that is what I call a biogenesis planet. And bio is life, genesis is creation, and it's based in water. The form here has a substantially larger quantity, and not just us, and in all life forms of water in it. So it's the wisdom of water as the mirror and the reflection of the geometry and light of source. The potential of that within the water is inside of us.
Mhm.
So in a way, if we wanted to say we're in the image of creator, water is that image in many ways, when we can connect to it at that level.
Yes, and we can say plasma.
Yes, as it reaches its etheric higher plasmic states, of course.
That's right. It's very programmable. And I speak to my friends and family and my granddaughter and those around me that the importance of our self talk, that if this is made of water, what are you saying to yourself about yourself?
Exactly.
You're basically programming your body at a cellular level.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about all this stuff in the mystery school teachings, right? There's many beautiful sisters and brothers who you can look up. I was going to say Google, but you can look them up through Elaine or myself that will teach you these things.
Mm-hmm.
For the average person, is I try to explain to them that, like what I just said, is the way we speak to one another, the way that we speak about ourselves. So when you understand the power of water, and Elaine has just explained it, that we're mostly water. The planet is water. Water exists in the plants, the oxygen. Everything we breathe has water. The sun produces plasma, information coded in that encodes the water, and codes come in, we anchor it in, and then we distribute it out. And
Mm-hmm.
that is how it's occurring for all of us. It is a beautiful and powerful, and I am so honored to share this space with you, Elaine, so that at this time that people understand what is occurring within them and without.
Yeah, it's really profound. We talk about doing this in our bodies, because if you look at the up leveling of, I call it the ascension of matter, which is
Mhm.
happening for us as a biological being, not just energetically, but our biological entity, our vessels are being upgraded in this spiral of matter as it becomes more coherent and more structured, and it recreates the divine intelligence matrix that becomes the transfer tool, the
Mhm.
transference tool for information. And one of the things that is super important for me as a way to connect everyone to water, whether they are aware of ascension or some of these higher timeline ideas that many of us talk about, is the absence of structured, organized, coherent water in our bodies leads to the condition of extreme dehydration, which is really what we call aging. If you look at a young, plump being and you watch all of us as we begin to age, you can see that dehydration and the deterioration of our biowaters inside of us. And so, from a very practical standpoint of living here in these bodies, the importance of understanding water as a tool for us to stay healthy beyond just the kind of false narratives that we've learned about taking a bottle of plastic water and not realizing that what's in that bottle, depending on what it is, could actually be dehydrating us more. And that hydration isn't just about drinking water, that it's a much more profound process to hydrate the body properly. And if our bodies are not agile and they're suffering from lots of conditions, and we're suffering from diseases and aches and pains, well, that takes us and our attention away from our creations and our divine missions and our sacred purpose. So for me, marrying the importance of the physicality, the embodiment, that's really such a big piece of divine embodiment.
Yes.
To me, is you're embodying your divinity. So your body is the temple. And just as you said, how you're speaking to your body, how you're treating your body, how you're understanding what your body is and how it interacts with the elemental realms and how it's made of these things, is such an important piece of how we anchor what's happening.
It's through us that this is occurring.
Yeah, it's
You
the
said so
weaving of
much.
heaven and earth, right? And
Yes.
we are that weaving within our vessels.
You said so much there that I hope that it set off alarms in people's minds, not in a bad way, in a good way. A lot of light bulbs going off as
Yeah.
they're listening and having this inner understanding and connection to themselves, and that not just drinking this water that is hydrating me, it is it structured? What kind of water am I drinking?
Yeah.
We understand even our food, like certain foods will dehydrate us.
Mm-hmm.
Just eating alone dehydrates us. So everything goes back to water.
It really does. It's the prima forma in this planet anyway. You know, if you go to a sun, it's fire, but here it's water with fire
There's
and all.
only one thing more intelligent than water, and that's plasma.
Yeah, which is the higher form of water.
Yeah, yeah.
Fire and water, plasma are the origination point of the holy waters, and they contain, you know, water has the memory, it has the capacity to transfer information. And so what's happening when we're dehydrated and we're drinking what I'll call a lower coherence of water, a water that's less organized, that's lost itself, if you will, just like humans lose themselves, water gets degraded in that way as well, is it loses those abilities, those higher capabilities. And ultimately what that's done to humanity by drinking these deadened waters, which water's never truly dead, but it can appear just like we can appear to be unconscious, is it disconnects us from source
Mhm.
at the deepest level, because it is the water is the antenna that connects us to the divine matrix, the plasma matrix, and the information highway of divine mind. And so when we're dehydrated, we can't communicate very well. It's like the wires are disconnected, even though it's a wireless technology. It doesn't work anymore. And so you can look at the degradations of the planetary waters as really a hallmark of our disconnection into separation consciousness.
That touched my heart so much because I had a visual of the earth And we're areas on our planet that's dehydrated,
The desertification,
dry.
yes,
Yeah.
is the removal of source information.
Yeah. The outer is a representation of the inner world, the collective consciousness of our own creation.
And also the narratives that, humanity has been a lot of false narratives and myths about water. For example, and this one, is always tricky because when you say one thing, then you have to predicate it with another, but this idea that there's a scarcity of water.
Oh, right.
And that there's this cycle that, and that's it. And there's no other access to it. That false narrative is very damaging because it creates such an intense lack and scarcity. And yet, on the other side, you say, oh, well, that means great, I can use all the water I want without really holding it in the sacredness of what it actually is and the value of it's really everything. Like this planet is water. And we are water beings, actually. We took the oceans, and as the evolutionary part of the biology of us, moved from the oceans in concurrence with the divine consciousness, we took the ocean with us, and that oceanic inner ocean is what sustains us. And it's really fascinating because a lot of the science now is catching up and starting to be able to show this, and actually prove some of these things out, so that it's not in the land of woo-woo so much anymore. It's
Yeah, I
really
mean,
a
it
marriage of
makes
science.
sense to me, Elaine, that water is how it's possible that we see the hologram,
Right.
right? If you can see a physical structure because our human body is made of water, otherwise, you would be invisible.
Yes, it's very true.
That's why
The
you can see
entire
the
experience
rainbow
is
when it
facilitated.
rains.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Our entire experience is really facilitated by water. Our entire experience in form. And Mother Mary has worked closely with me, to bring in, because she's really been such a protector of the sacred waters at different sites, ancient sites, obviously, that go beyond the tradition that she's associated with. Of course, as a soul, she's a much more vast than the archetype that she's portrayed with the Catholic tradition. She's really wanting to bring back. And one of the things, that she shared with me in a channeling, she says, when humanity understands what water is, then you will understand and express your divinity. Because really, if you don't have that fundamental understanding of what water is and that you're made of it and make the connection, you're not going to understand how to steward yourself as a biological being, an energetic being, or your environment correctly, because you have a misunderstanding about what they are.
Powerful, 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 Elaine. You are powerful in your words and wisdom. Thank you. I'm so honored to have you on, sharing so adequately. Let's talk about the feminine, the divine feminine in us all. We touched bases on it a little bit, but I do want to incorporate that in our conversation for a little bit, please, on Facebook. Oh, you're back. Good. Elaine, can you, do you want to get into the divine feminine when we say, hi, when we're saying we're moving forward as a feminine, forward moving reality, what does that mean to you and to our listeners? How would they understand that?
Well, I'm going to put it in the reference of nature,
Without meaning that we are superior. Mm-hmm.
because
Sorry.
nature mirrors everything for us. And if you look at the configuration of, let's forget about gender, because we're, so often it's like
Yes.
feminine against masculine. Let's just talk about energy. The feminine and the masculine is energy. And the way the blueprint of creation works here on this planet, and we'll even change the words, to say yin and yang, just to get rid of all connotation of gender. And they have certain characteristics. When you look at nature, when there's balance, the yin is the passive force and the yang is the active force. There's actually a configuration when there's perfect harmony, not a 50-50, but and it's approximate 60-40, because the masculine is the active force.
Right.
And so there needs to be just a little tilt
Yes.
into the passive force to actually create that balance. And on our planet, and now if we look at that on the level of humanity and how that expresses through us, that feminine wisdom, the receptivity, the softness of the yin impulse, obviously in our collective has been very out of balance, and that yang has been way overactive, which suppressed. And so when we say that the divine feminine is returning the feminine wisdom, it isn't to raise the feminine above the masculine. They're always together. They're actually in higher formats, one unified force. They're not two things.
Right.
They can't be one without the other. They can't exist without each other, because they complete the energy, the perfected energy of our divine template. So the divine feminine leading is simply kind of restoring that, to say, okay, the wave of the divine feminine wisdom needed to come back first in this wave of awakening so that it could recalibrate, and then pull the masculine back also into its proper alignment so that everything can be back into harmony together. Because there's never one without the other. And, we all know that we have both forces inside of us. And we know that we have, if you look at the creation at an atomic level, there's always a negative and a positive, an electromagnetic field in everything. And that's to me what the divine feminine and the divine masculine at their core are: energy.
Yeah.
That we need to master inside of ourselves. Now, when you look at humans and our patterns and our ancestral patterns and ways that we've played out gendered, now speaking more of a gendered feminine and masculine, there's been many distortion patterns in both the feminine and the masculine. And to initiate kind of the rebalancing, the feminine has been called to rise up and heal herself of those distortions, kind of first wave. Not to say that there aren't many beautiful masculines that are awake and doing beautiful work, but there's a very strong call for the feminine wisdom to rise up in leadership, because there's been such an imbalance in our collective. And when the feminine, the true divine feminine rises, it isn't to be above the masculine, it's to call the masculine back, to say, remember your divinity, so that we can come back into that unified force together.
I love that so much. Thank you for that. This is a great opportunity for me to ask you, Elaine, about divine partnerships that are coming together. If we are doing this divine union from within, and we are perfect and whole, what is this twin flame or divine union partnerships that people are talking about?
That's a great question. Well, I'm going to separate those two terms, twin flame and divine union, because there can be a divine union into people without it being a twin flame joining. So I'll speak to the twin flame because there's a lot of confusion, I think, and unfortunate misinformation about that. So again, I'm going to refer to the twin flame as an energy because it is. And we were created in the divine template that we just discussed, the feminine and the masculine. And when you look at higher multidimensional versions of us, or if you look at the masters or any higher beings that we're in contact with, they have counterparts. And eventually, if they get up into higher configurations, they're just one unified force. They're very androgynous. But our experience into duality did create a separation of the masculine and the feminine polarity as it came into embodiment. So it's very much an energetic thing, your twin flame. So your twin, you only have one because it's the other half of your exact vibrational match. Does that mean that that's going to translate into you meeting that other being on this lifetime to have a romantic relationship? Maybe, maybe not. That's completely according to each soul's divine blueprint. Because when we ascend, that's actually a merging that happens at an energetic level that can have absolutely nothing to do with romance or relationships or any of those things. It's a recreation of the divine vortex and the unification. And often even a twin flame is not an embodiment at the same time as we are. You know, there can be staggering that happens in the embodiments of our twins. That being said, there are a lot of twins that are embodying right now to come into, now we'll use the term divine union.
Mhm.
But you can also accomplish this with a soulmate. And so my definition of that is two beings that have ascended into their wholeness internally. So they're holding the Christic blueprint of the androgynous masculine and feminine. And then they choose to unite their energy into a third energy that creates another powerful force.
Right.
And that's, my definition is where the new leadership of the new earth will come from, because it's a representation physically and engendered bodies, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a man and a woman, it's energy. It can be two women, one holding, you know, opposite polarities or vice versa. But it's like the completed template. So we do that within ourselves, within our union. And then if you join with another being that's completed that as well, it creates a new level of harmonic that really represents the original blueprint of our own divine blueprint. So it's a powerful leadership energy. Regardless of what that leadership looks like, it's an energetic leadership, an anchor, again, if you will, very powerful anchor to remind creation, this is how the blueprint was. And when we restore that, we're uniting the highest level energetically of that template and recreating that harmony.
I was just looking to see if there was any questions. So far, none. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who, for whatever reason, part of their soul's journey was to experience some different pathways of our mastery. Way back when we, to 2010, you can go before that, when the twin flame stories started to come out, it caused a lot of confusion. And we weren't really ready. And so I call that the inorganic timeline. And some of us had to go, some people went down that path, the inorganic timeline, for a little while, and then realized that was what was going on. And then about information that they needed or lessons or whatever it was, there's no wrong or right here. And so what exactly has occurred until this moment is exactly what your soul's journey needed.
Yeah, precisely. And the other thing I would say about the twin flame journey, sometimes when it can become a little too focused, maybe to put it a certain way, is it really shows the longing inside the human for love. And so the dream of that one true love can be a very powerful catalyst for growth. And so people that have that, and I went through that journey with my own twin, you know, that longing, will find that it heals that longing. And that when it's healed, it balances out. So the longing piece of that dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so those that are on that journey, I agree with you, it is part of their journey to experience that. So there is no wrong path. But there can be maybe moving too extremely, in a certain way that you forget that it's the inner union at the end of the day. It has to happen here first, but that path will show you that. So everybody finds it in the perfect way. And I call that becoming the beloved.
Mm. Yeah, I speak about quantum all the time to my friends, that it's a little weird to be sometimes the only one aware that we're in a quantum reality, at least at this level of my awareness. And so at any moment, depending where we are quantumly, I could experience a moment where this person is already awakened to that knowing. And there's many writings about this, that some people at any given moment wake up in the morning and have this knowing and this knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
They timeline jumped, or we took we're getting ready to take a big quantum leap at the end of August, after the 8-8 codes come in for humanity and ourselves. This is happening in stages.
Yeah.
And if we had, some of us had too much information that maybe the brain itself wasn't ready to, or too much distortion that it wasn't able to comprehend or embody this information. It was too much, to explain to someone we're infinite. Or you don't die. You're not going to die. You're not really dying, and Elaine doesn't go anywhere. Anna doesn't really go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody isn't ready to hear or receive that information, it causes confusion. And so early on, we wanted to share this information. Some of us who were aware of mystery school teachings, aware of our divine union, and we understood this, we had to wait till this time. But here we are.
It's a readiness, right? And it does that analogy again of the pregnancy of the energy of being ready, to receive in that feminine essence, to receive the seed of the divine wisdom is very palpable. And all we ever could do is plant seeds, and also really just look at our own journeys, because we needed to tend to ourselves, and still do in many ways, before we can really hold anything larger than that, because it's a big job to reconcile everything that's going on just in our own experience. It's a really big job. It's a full-time job.
It's a full-time job. It's a full-time
Right.
job to just,
Yes.
because you're acutely aware of your reality.
Yes.
That you're in charge at this level. At least, speaking for myself, at this level, I know that what I'm experiencing at every given moment, it's because of what I'm projecting.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're at that level of awareness, it can be some more. There is a learning curve at
Mm-hmm.
each level of mastery, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain to my friends, well, I'm a master in training or an apprentice. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning more and more, and then we embody that learning or that knowing. You learn it, you say it, you're like, okay, oh yeah. Then you have this moment where it's in.
It.
Become it. Yes, you become that in which you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Where do I want to go with this? I was telling my roommate, I was like, I was watching Back to the Future and I told him the first one, I said the flux capacitor was was representing the three for it to time travel. It was, the the masculine and the feminine, and then the third energy that we speak about, the Holy Grail.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching this show where they were talking about how in Egypt, how they had these machines that, what's the word I'm looking for? That's what assisted to move those big stones,
Yeah.
and they called it the manna, and how
Mm-hmm.
manna was created,
Mm-hmm.
right? And through manna, it created this energy that was able to move things. We are the manna.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the water, back to the information, the intelligence, and we are the moving. But to get like that kind of responsibility, you have to be a clear and pure vessel. Because of our intent,
Yes.
and to create at such level of mastery without recreating what we did in Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
to recreate a world, to have that sort of responsibility is what we're talking about. That
Yeah,
it's a
it's
full-time job.
it's gigantic to step into that mastery, just everything that you said, like we are full capacity divine creator beings,
Yes.
and we have had periods and cycles when that didn't go so well.
No.
And so now it's, with the power comes that massive radical responsibility to say you are the creator of your reality and your world and your collective. So what will you create, and what will you destroy, and what will you steward, and what will you take? And it's such an evolution of, it's really, from my view, why as souls we came into duality. It's, to me, it's like training school for creators, to come down and play with duality and say, when I create something out of this energy, this is what happens. And oh, I think I probably won't do that again. That wasn't making sense. And when I created an alignment with divine templates, wow, this is what happens. And, you know, not everyone may agree with my perception of that, but this is an amazing schoolhouse for creator beings. And maybe we did get trapped in the game, unfortunately,
Me too.
and needed to
Mhm.
get pushed back out. But that was really, I think, the intention of this form reality back in times when this was an actual Christed planet in
It
different
had a
eras.
lot to do with the fall of humanity in our DNA.
Yes, very much so. But we have to also take responsibility for that, because there can be so much anger that comes, which is understandable, of course, from what we could call like parasitic energies that have taken advantage of forgetting and even, made changes. But ultimately, the collective gave it's okay for all that. And there's the reason those energies could
It's
come in the first place. So we all have to take responsibility, our souls that have been here for so many cycles, to say that we participated in that permission. And now we have to, take back that power.
yeah. What I said about us being responsible for knowing the gifts that are being bestowed on. We keep freezing because what we're our topic obviously is a powerful one. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. We'll just be patient.
Is mastery all the time. Is how can I become more masterful in what in my thoughts? And even to just be so observant of just stay in presence and observe and move and flow. And when we're in flow, that's when we're creating at a highest level. Share with our listeners that you can share some more of your wisdom. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can. Sorry, it was freezing there.
Yeah. Sorry, I apologize to all our listeners and viewers if we're freezing up. It's just we're very higher energetics coming through right now. Our physical being and our voice, and it's the codes that are being transmitted is causing our internet to get interfered with. But I wanted you to share with our listeners about your website and what you offer for anyone who wants to learn more about what we're talking about. How can they reach you, Elaine? What are you offering at this time?
I'll be happy to share. Well, I would say it falls into two categories depending what someone's soul feels called to. And one of those is the Rose lineage teachings, the wisdom teachings of the divine feminine, of the priestess, the Rose priestess lineage, becoming a vessel for the divine mother, and the path of sacred union as part of that lineage. And the other parallel that really is the same thing, but it looks different, is the water priestess training. And if not water priestess, I have a course called Activating Your Inner Crystal Waters that will give you a really powerful overview of both the science and the health side of what water is, in addition to a lot of the mystical aspects of how we ascend with our water. So it's a pretty amazing overview of the entire topic. If you're not geared, obviously, if you're a masculine or the priestess path doesn't resonate. So those are kind of my water temple and my rose heart temple are the two avenues of the temple that the mystery school teachings of the divine feminine are offered at this time. And I have a beautiful event that's happening on the 21st called Sangriel, the Grail Codex, where we're going to be working with Mary Magdalene on the day before the feast day of Mary Magdalene, next Sunday, July 21st. And we're going to be receiving a download about what the Grail consciousness is and how it's coming into form, if you will, at this time on the planet. So that's a
How about
lovely.
your book?
Yeah, and the book is it's called Awakening Sacred Union Between the Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine, Becoming the Beloved Rose. And it's really a primer for those who feel called to the path of sacred union, the path of the beloved, different ways that it can be. But the ones that feel that call, that I'm meant to be in a higher divine partnership, and what does that mean exactly? Because I know way earlier in my path, I always had this call to say that's my path, but I really, until I went through my own initiations and training, which I talk about in great detail in the book, I didn't really even understand what that was or the purpose of it or what it meant. So it's kind of a primer for the ascension path, using sacred relationship as a growth tool and an understanding of kind of the map of what that journey is about. As we
And I feel like that's really important. I highly recommend this book for everyone because the path to divine union within is freedom.
Mhm.
It's the next level of what we're doing. I wanted to talk about the Lion's Gate, the importance of the 8-8 codes that we're receiving after the 21st and what you're doing. Did you want to talk about anything about the Lion's Gate or August and harvest and how that, following the patterns of the earth and what we talked about, if we looked at the elemental kingdom and the animal kingdom, and how what's our harvest for coming in for us, and what does that mean for ascension, Elaine?
Yeah, there's a third event. We actually had an earlier one in June. It was a series of 3, and the final one is on the 888 portal. And it's pretty interesting, again, returning to the birthing canal analogy, because from my understanding, it's like that we're moving into the new timeline solidly in August, and that particular alignment is going to be a very powerful push. And I use the word push on purpose because I think it is going to be a bit of a push for us, that we're all going to get pushed even further out of our comfort zones. Which, some of us are like, really can't imagine that. Okay. It's enough already, but in a positive way, not in a drop off into the abyss, death and rebirth way, but into our light, into our power, into our gifts, into our service. And that I sense this large bump up of many who have been working for many years on these things, but kind of, being a little bit hidden as we've been through these years and not being front and center, feeling that preparation time was necessary in every aspect, and that there's a push into this new timeline to say, okay, leadership, you're on. And what are you going to create? What are you going to create? Because this is your show. You are creating the new earth. You are the new earth. So that's my sense inside from my my own feelings of what I see in myself and what I see around me in others that are working in similar ways. That it's, what's that song? I'm coming out, like
Yeah.
it's time for those mysteries to not be mysteries anymore, to be revealed and to be available, and that there will be an absorption possible, a higher level of absorption possible in the collective. Not all it in any way, but that there will be a bigger group that's ready to step into that, those teachings, those wisdoms, whatever, however people, healings, however all of us are delivering our energy and gifts, that more will come to be ready to ride that wave. I believe that's just my,
yeah, a lot more people will, like you said, it won't be so mystery.
yeah,
It's not going to be so mysterious.
yeah, we can let go of the word mystery and say it's awakening. Let's just all remember, like,
yeah, that we're all remembering the truth of our who we are and what we are and where we came from.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the ability, the water, if you want to say, in us is ready to awaken that a little more. And so there's more reception, there's more yin reception, where we can place some of those thought forms out there, and they can take root, take seed a little more readily. Sometimes I laugh, and talking with Tristan, who's here with me, and I just feel like a lot of the light workers and star seeders are just talking to each other. We're keeping each other company.
Oh, no. Some of us are like myself. I go out.
Yeah.
Because I know it also happens by proxy. I realize
Yes.
it's my very being, who I am. And when
Yes.
I'm out and about, when I make eye contact,
Mhm.
my love, my embodiment, my presence, and those who are open and ready will receive that.
Absolutely. So true. But yeah, it is just a funny thing that I witnessed, that we're all kind of reminding each other that already
Yeah,
been
I mean,
here.
I feel like there's sometimes like I was on a podcast with a beloved sister. I didn't really know what to talk about, because you get when you have someone at a level of awareness,
Mhm.
as you, Elaine, and myself, and we get around other people, it could seem like, also, is there anybody else up here?
Yeah.
Am I the only one who's having this inner knowing? But you also you mastered through that, you know that we realize that this is more the merrier. This
Mhm.
is an all for one and one for all situation.
Absolutely.
We're here for humanity, we're here for Gaia, we're here for all the planets, all the universe, all the beingness, everything and all. When we talk about oneness and the law of one and all these things, it's not a secret anymore. We're shouting from the top of the roof now. Hello, it's the truth. We're not crazy.
Right. And that is the beauty of so many individual beings, remembering, the kind of basics that everyone may talk about it and refer to it in different ways, but we're all kind of saying the same thing, remembering the same sorts of structures. And I think that that's beautiful that there are so many reference points that are independently waking up and then, coming together to say, right, yeah, we all are seeing the reflection of the same prism out there and reflecting it back here. So I think that's powerful, I think.
And taking self-responsibility
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
our thoughts. Again, I say it on almost every podcast, is to remind the light worker community or the star seeds, the starborns, whatever name you want to give ourselves, is that creation comes in a form of a thought. And so we hold ourselves responsible for the next evolution of humanity and ourselves, and to remember that every word, thought, deed, and action must be qualified and quantified before we even step out of bed every morning. That it
It's a
is
high
our
standard.
role. It's a very high standard. I know that. And it sounds impossible to some people, and it takes discipline, but it is not. Everything is possible.
It is possible, yes.
This is an infinite game
Yes.
that we have the honor of experiencing in the physical. I'm so excited to be a spiritual being alive on this planet at this time and be able to share with the world the information and people like yourself, Elaine, a beloved sister out there sharing your wisdom. I thank you. I'm honored. This was a great podcast, one of my favorite. I love water. I love the sun. So water and plasma are one of my, it's
Yeah.
called very sacred to my heart and my inner understanding.
And thank you, Anna, for shining your light and brilliance as well and doing this work. It's been such a pleasure.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming in.
Blessings.
Bye-bye. Blessings.